Yeah, next time I'll use a ring.
There we go. Okay, recording started. So because because you're going to be possibly using StreamYard also for your podcasting adventures, I wanted to show you a little bit of the behind the scenes of what this looks like um, to me. Like when, and so it's going to look weird. Um, well, let me first say this. I mean, if we're recording this, and maybe we'll post it on the pages. I'll say hello. My name's Adam. This is Anil Reddy, and we're trying something new here. Uh, One, we have a new relationship. You're a new friend, right? I'm a new friend of yours, and we're getting to know each other, and I think that's kind of cool. We My brother and I have our live show on every Thursday at 3 o'clock on LinkedIn Live and YouTube and all that. And I'm not plugging that, but I bring that up because my brother Matt and I have often talked about how we started this to document, not promote, right? And we're both big fans of Gary Vaynerchuk, and um, he wrote an article or some sort of post that said the documenting the journey, if you enjoy doing that, then do it. And that's kind of how this was. It's not how we got started, but it's how we've formed it, because that's why a lot of people that do watch this that we've invited on, they actually like watching me or my brother stumble our way through it. You know what I mean? So you and I just had some technical difficulties, right? So you're trying to figure out your Bluetooth and the speaker and your camera, and I really love that because we're going to get into the diverse and very deep things that you've done in your life and career, which I find fascinating. And I've also had a kind of a longer, career in hospitality. And what I found kind of later in my 40s or so, I'll be 50 this year. That I found that people were found me to be unapproachable. They just assumed, as a manager or a leader, even as a hotel general manager, some people just assume that, "Oh, that person's busy. I don't want to bother him," or and that makes that person unapproachable, right? I'm also, I don't know, I got some beefiness to myself. I'm a kind of a big dude and 6'1", and I could probably lose a few. And so there's also the physical aspect, right? So the people assume that, like, hey, um, I don't want to approach that person, even though it's my supervisor or my could be a partner or a coworker. And that really frustrated me because that's not me. Like, I'm very approachable, and when people started to get to know me, they broke through, and their reaction would always be like, "Man, I had no idea. I mean, you have a sense of humor. Like, you have a, you're this or you're that. I had no idea. I never knew that you were what you were doing in your office or what you were doing with all these other people." And so, this podcast, my brother and I started on my mom's birthday on May 25th, and we've done 34 episodes now. And we did say very little rules, and the only rules were to stay consistent, which is a challenge for me. So I really do enjoy having something to do every week. I'm a good starter of things sometimes, but sometimes they fizzle out. I'll forget about them and I'll move on to something else. But this has been great for consistency. And we wanted to get a little bit better every week. And that's really all we said. Like, but what has come about is the fact that it's helped, maybe call it my humility, because we're bumping and splashing, we're making mistakes. Sometimes I swear, and I don't really want to do that publicly, or sometimes we'll have technical difficulties. It's not a, I'm in my little, like, bedroom slash office at my home, so I got all my inspiring figures back here. I got my TV that sometimes has, like, Conan O'Brien's podcast on it in the background, and YouTube thinks that I'm promoting Conan O'Brien, so it's copyrighted, and I get an email saying that you can't use Conan's name or something. I don't know. So all of this, Anil, goes to show that I really like the idea of you and I just having met, not in person, but over on a project a couple weeks ago. And man, our conversations just go boom, 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 and it's been very invigorating to me. So, um, if you don't mind, I'm gonna start with a quick quote, and I think that you'll like it. And it has to do with words that we use. So, when you have something to say, silence is a lie. We tend to ignore the power of the words we use because we use them all the time for both meaningful and meaningless things. For example, if you keep silent when something bad happens in front of you, then wrongness becomes part of yourself. Being alive involves being brave, so do speak your mind, but also mind your words because they are more powerful than we are taught to believe. Um, that's Dr. Jordan Peterson. He's somewhat of a
There's a
controversial.
movie where the first dialogue starts with the professor walking into a class, and he goes off on this girl. And he's like, I never want to see you again. I never want you on the university campus. Da 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 da. He goes off. So she walks away crying. And I don't remember what movie that is, but I remember the rest of the people did nothing. And so it came back. The professor then stands up and he goes, what were you guys doing? Where was justice for her?
Right, I think I remember that too. I don't know what movie that was. Yeah, it may have been like a video cl right, exactly. Who stood up for her, they're saying, like, right? I
Exactly.
was
Yeah.
rude and
So if
mean and
you can't
intimidating
stand
to
up
this
for
person.
somebody, then what's the point of living?
Wow, that's really good. We're gonna have to figure out what movie that was. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to figure out what movie that is. I watched it not too long ago, and I just don't remember it. What movie that was. But that was very
Yeah.
interesting comment, and how the way the scene played out. That was very dramatic scene because you didn't anticipate the ending to be the way it was because you just thought the professor had something against her when you first watch it, and then all of a sudden it turns out it was about justice. Is that if you
Mm.
can't stand up for somebody, then who are you standing up for?
Yeah, and use your, at least use your words.
Yeah.
Um, and that's a big, theme of our podcast because who we call our family, I've got a pretty good strong network of people with Hospiamo. And we've been developing our family of network people, and these are just regular people, right? These are hotel general managers or even outside of the hospitality or hotel industry. And the common theme or the common thread maybe is that they're doing something, like they're taking some sort of action. Evelyn was one of our first guests, and she's a hotel general manager. Actually, hi Evelyn, a recent area or regional director of operations, recent promotion. She's got a wonderful personality, and I also have not met her in person, but I was following her on LinkedIn uh, before COVID, so it's like 2019, and she would post a video every Friday of her and her team. They would make a point of dancing every Friday. So she had like 20 or 30 front desk people, housekeepers, engineers, and they're all together in their little meeting room. And she would video it and she would post it on LinkedIn. And I said, that is what this life of hoteliers is all about. And I just would follow her and I loving the energy. And I said, I remember writing the comment, I wish everybody would do this because there's so many people that don't live day to day in hotels and they just assume it's this, you know, 18 hours a day and stressful and, you got to work, 7 days a week. And it's sure, I mean, you got to work hard. But it's not like that all the time. And it's a lot of fun. And so she was doing it, and then COVID hit and, just our industry, just like all the other industries, got thrown upside down. But then when my brother and I started this, um, no, it was actually before that. It was early in 2023 that I contacted her and I said, "Hey, I was kind of like bumbling my way through of the next things that I wanted to do with my with Hospiamo." I said, "You and I should just keep talking, right? And because I love your energy." Um, and we did. And so she was one of our first guests, and her voice, right, is what I found is that her voice is critically important, because she has, she's gone through the ranks of Marriott and Hilton, and she actually keeps track. This is fascinating, of the number of people that she has promoted into general management. So she's a general manager, and so she her number was 23 at the time last year.
Wow.
So she has promoted people that work with her at a hotel, 23 people that are now out there in the world. They don't still work for her, that are hotel general managers or above. And she wants to get to 60. That's a goal. And I said, you deserve your own show just to talk about that. Right. And so she's been on our show like 3 or 4 times. She was out in Vegas at the Hilton conference earlier in the year, and uh, she was live with her phone going to say hi to people at the Hilton conference. It was pretty cool. So, anyways, the words and her voice, um, people who ask me about the show ask me a lot about Evelyn, um, and some other people on there too. But it's a wonderful platform for that. It's a wonderful platform for words, and for speaking your mind, regardless of whatever it is. And so when you, Anil, said that you're thinking about doing your own podcast, the first thing that popped in my mind, because you actually asked, and I found this interesting. You said, "Do you think I should do this?" And the first thing that I thought of, I was like, "This guy has a lot to say." Because you and I naturally just were on the phone for like 2 hours or something like that. We were just like boom, 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 boom. And I
Yes.
said, you've got a lot to say. And a podcast um, is a great way to say those things to the world. And I was avoiding doing that for many, many, many years because I don't know, I was probably more not in person. I mean, I'm very much of an extrovert, but as far as sharing what I was doing, business, and I was working on some proprietary type things that I didn't want to like share. But then I said, forget all that. And my brother and I started this podcast, and it's just it's opened up a lot of relationships and ideas, and you're one of them. So we're recording right now. We'll be recording for the
So
next
it's
maybe half
interesting
hour or
that
so.
you started off by saying is that people were intimidated by you, right? So even when I was in business, I went through that same routine. People were just intimidated. I'm not physical. I'm 6 foot, but not big
Yeah.
or anything. So people are intimidated because they think you have so much more knowledge than they do, and they don't want to question you. And the problem with that is that questioning and answering is actually the critical part of living. That's where you get your answers. That's where you understand things. And most of the time, I may not even know the answer to the damn thing, but I'll figure out a way to get you some help. And so I always used to tell my employees that is that, hey, don't be afraid. I said, whatever the problem is, come see me and I'll figure out a way to help you out. And so that's very, very critical, particularly when it comes to sales efforts, with sales and technical efforts. Operations, they're okay. They can do their own thing. Accounting does their own thing, so that doesn't bother me. But sales and technology, I mean, those are two critical elements where you have to understand what the other person is thinking or what the other side is doing as far as technology goes. How do you find the root cause for something? How do you start fixing the root cause? Most of the time when I'm dealing in the telecom side or network integration with robotics and stuff, it's every second counts, so you don't have too much time to waste. I mean, you have to fix the problem immediately. And so therein lies the idea and the concept that you have to be very methodical about what you say and how you listen to the people. And more important, you need to be approachable. If you can't be
Mm.
approachable, then everything is blown up already in the corporation.
The I noticed that I'm also very passionate, right? And so you add into that I do have some knowledge, and I really do want to just share and listen and Q&A and learn. But in my 30s or so, maybe I'm still very passionate, but I was very passionate about my position, about what I was thinking about something, right? And so And I've never really been like a salesperson, but I'm always selling, right? I'm selling my ideas and I'm like, I think we should do this. And I think we should try this differently. And um then somebody, I remember who it was, said to me like, it's hard to say, it's hard to debate you. You know, like, I didn't really agree with what you just said, I can't remember what it was, but she was like, "It's hard to debate you, you're so passionate about your ideas," and she said, "Be careful about that," because and she was someone that worked technically for me or, you know, under my on my team. She goes, "Be careful about that, because you uh, there are some people on the team that disagree with you, and you want" and I said, "Oh my god, thank you so, so much," and that was a great learning moment, and that's when I started to learn, like, I gotta be, I gotta create mechanisms to, to allow the back and forth. One
Yes.
thing I just saw on a, Jeff Bezos was getting interviewed on a podcast. I really like, Lex Fridman. I don't know if you ever watch his podcast. He's,
Hmm.
got a very popular podcast, and he had Jeff Bezos on, and, he asked him about his, I guess, famous, uh like hour-long meetings that they have every week. They call them something, but it's like a stand-up meeting. And Bezos said he is always the mechanism that he put in place is that he's always the last to speak. And it always starts with a memo. Oh yeah, that's right. It's called the 6-page memo meeting. So somebody will write a memo about the topic of what they're meeting about, right? And it's 6 pages only. And everyone goes into the meeting. Let's say there's 12 people, they have the memo in front of them. And he said, we don't give them the memo ahead of time because most of them will maybe not read it. Most of them are very busy and they don't have time to read it, or they'll read it too fast and they won't really understand it. And so we put it in front of them in the meeting and we spend the first 30 minutes, everyone in silence, and they just read the memo. And then the next 30 minutes, we talk about it. And he said, Jeff Bezos, am the last to speak because if I start speaking first, then naturally people are going to probably want to agree with me, or, you know, I'm the CEO of the company and the owner. And so he wants the junior executives, the junior people to speak their mind and without any fear of retaliation or whatever. And I think that's a beautiful thing. That makes
It
sense. It's kind
is,
of
it is,
right.
and it works in the larger companies. But when you're running smaller teams, right? What I found most effective was a 10-minute stand-up conference room meeting.
Mm,
And so basically, it was only 10 minutes. Nobody sits down, everybody stands up. And because otherwise, if you sit down, I mean, to me, it feels like by the time you say hello and bye, it takes 30 minutes. Instead, everybody just walks in. There's no highs, byes, nothing. It's on the clock, and there's a clock, and everybody starts off, goes from right to left, and then finally ends up with me. And then I do my thing in just about 30, 45 seconds, and we walk away, and that's it.
nice.
As simple as that. So it's a far more effective in my mind, the point of view, and the reason it works very well with the smaller teams versus larger corporate teams like what you were referring to with Jeff Bezos and stuff is because they have larger, bigger ideas. Whereas when you're a smaller team, you're focused on what you're trying to accomplish. You got the sales guy, you got the operations guy, you got the accounting guy, so forth and so on. I mean, there's only going to be about maybe maximum 10 people sitting around, and so it makes it a much more effective way of doing
Right.
things. So it's a matter of level of what size the company is. But I
I think
definitely
you,
agree with it.
when you said that you are, it takes a leader, you know, someone like you, if you're the one in charge, to commit to those 10 minutes, right? Because I've been a part of some of those meetings. They're like, hey, it's a stand-up meeting. And all of a sudden, the stand-up meeting was supposed to be 10 minutes, but now it's like an hour and 15 minutes later. Very productive conversations, but that defeats the purpose, right? It defeats the
Yes.
purpose of doing it 10 minutes and then allowing people to spread out, right? And that takes commitment. That takes someone to be like, ding, 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 10 minutes is up. Let's go do our job, right?
Exactly. See, there's nothing you can't express that's going on in an organization within a minute or two. I mean, you should be able to do that. I mean, if you can't do it, that means you're doing something wrong, particularly if you're a smaller company. Now, if you're a diversified company, I'm betting that's an entirely different story.
Yeah.
When I used to run the voice over IP companies, my technology company, network integration company, or the robotics or the defense contracting, everything was very simple. 10 minutes, that's all you got, and I would stop it regardless of what else is happening. You need to be able to stop it. So what that does is the first two or three times you'll fail because people have a lot of
Mm.
things they want to say. But then they will themselves will realize is that okay, next time I go into this meeting, here's exactly the words I'm going to say. And some of them used to write it down. So they knew exactly that they would get 30 seconds or 1 minute. And they would write it down and they come prepared. And it was very concise and very easy to understand and move on.
Hey, what we could probably spend 10 different sessions ourselves, just
Yeah,
based on
we
the
could.
different things that you've done. I mean, I'm a hotel hospitality lifer. That's under that umbrella, tourism. That's what I've always been in. People might call it managing hotels or owning hotels or asset management or general manager. It doesn't matter. It's all just restaurants. We're I'm kind of in the space business. Not outer space, but sometimes I'm in outer space. But the space business. We rent space. People live there. People eat there. We supply the basics, and I think it's fascinating and amazing
Yeah.
that I can be a part of an industry where people are just living at your various houses upstairs, and they all have their own lives, and I'm just infinitely curious about human beings. And so um but when I was getting to know you, if people are listening or watching this, Anil and I met in the hotel industry. I'm in the world of part of my world is acquiring hotels and doing due diligence and pricing them out and evaluating them for purchase and conversion or renovations or whatever it might be. So I'm involved in various aspects. And Anil was we were talking about one of those properties for sale, and um, found out we if we spoke for an hour, we really only spoke for maybe 5 minutes about the property, and we spoke for 55 minutes about the various things that we're into. And I thought it was really interesting. I find you very interesting. You are involved and have been involved in so many things that I've not been involved in, like deeply involved. You know what I mean? Like whenever you say like voice over IP, right? You were doing that like before anyone probably knew even what
Yes,
that
it was
was,
in
right?
1999. I think I started my first company in 92 manufacturing computers. And I had
Really?
an apartment. Yeah, I had an apartment and I would build the computers there. And pretty soon it grows so big, I had to get the next door apartment and I cut a door in there. And then that's where I would build the computers and I would stay on my side. And then eventually that led to, another project, which was a defense related project. And then so we started supplying there. And sooner or later, that all became an enterprise. And I sold that company off. And after I did that, I figured out is that, okay, we need to figure out the next technology that's going to come out. Just about then, I believe it was IDF, Israeli Defense Force, that had actually originally initiated the Voice over IP project. And they were using it to keep their communications secure. And so I came up with this idea and I found a partner in Dallas, Texas. It was a company called Vocal Data. And so I used their technology to deploy a platform and eventually ended up selling it to a group out of New York. And then right behind it, I turned around and started another company that was doing wholesale. Oh, wait, before that, I actually sold another company to Wow, which is worldwide something. So, it's a cable
Mm.
company. So I was out of Colorado. So, and then I sold it eventually to the New York group. And then I went to Washington, D.C. to run a company called iCore, which was acquired by Vonage
Uh,
Business. And then from there, it was just different routes came along, and I'm always been passionate about aviation because we used to fly so much. We had 3 aircraft, and we would be flying every day in the morning from 5 o'clock to at least 8 o'clock at night, and then land. I had two little girls at the time, and
Wow.
so I wanted to be always home at nighttime, and so it worked out
So you
perfect.
were and it wasn't as, the world wasn't as, remote friendly at that time either, right? So you had to actually go there in person, come back,
Yes.
and whereas today, you and I can jump on a Zoom or something like that and get something done
Yeah,
very
funny
quickly.
you say
That's
that
interesting.
because I
Yeah.
actually started a video conferencing company using an Israeli-based technology called Rad Vision, which
Hmm.
was later acquired by Lucent. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
believe they're, yeah.
And
So
then
I
Lucent was
started that, but I
acquired
was
by
just so
AT&T or
early to
something.
market. Everything I've done has been so early to market,
Yeah.
that I lose out. And so this time around, I'm going to wait for the technology to catch up a little bit and let somebody else be the market leader, and then I'll go in behind them.
There you go. There you go. Something I've been, learning about for the past year is I won't say AI, but I'm trying to learn about AI, and I think a lot of people are. And my brother and I were just talking that the example that he said. So my brother's in Agile. I would love for
Yeah.
you to have a conversation with him and have you on our show with Matt. He has experience, deep experience in a lot of the areas that you have had. He's been involved in like digital payments before digital payments were real, and um, payroll processes and software development and engineering. And he went to Worcester Polytech Institute, WPI, up in Massachusetts with an electrical engineering degree. And now he's in the agile space. He's a scrum master. He's very he's he and I are very different. We're very, at the core, very similar and same, but very different experiences in our call them our general careers and lives there. So he has a lot more. He even has hair. Like, that's how different he is than me. So, um, but so he's up in Boston, the Massachusetts area. I'm in Charlotte, and so he's in the agile world. And what he was saying about technology, I guess, or the next thing. Uh, there are people that are naturally curious about things, even if it's not their job or in their job description. And it sounds like you have a very similar attitude as my brother and I, in that you were involved in things very early before they kind of blew up into something. But
Correct.
let me ask you this: you actually took action behind it, right? So
Yes.
a lot of people can say that, like I can say, like, "Hey, I've been using Chat GPT for a year, and like I'm this big innovator." I'm like, I can't say that. I've just been like trying to learn and like get into it, and I haven't actually created anything yet, and I want to, but I haven't created anything yet, like a product using that for my industry, and I think I will. But you actually did it like multiple times, and you took an idea and use technology to create an actual product, or like you said, a platform. I think that's
That's
really cool, man. That takes a special kind of person to be able to like take it to the next step and take an action there, right?
Well, see, that's the thing is the perseverance. You have to have that.
Mm,
And you have to be able to have the ability also to be able to pull it off. So, by nature, what happens is that most engineers are not salespeople. Most salespeople are not engineers. I
mhm.
happen to be blessed with the ability that I can speak publicly. I've done many keynote speakings and so forth and so on. And more important, I understand the technology behind any given product. My background, I started off at the University of Alabama in Huntsville with aerospace engineering, electrical engineering, chemical engineering, mechanical engineering. And so I have a background in deep background in all of these things. So when people ask me to solve a problem, it's pretty easy. I mean, because most problems aren't really that hard to solve. I mean, you just need somebody that kind of can look at it and understand what the end result needs to be. You never want them to tell you what the final product needs to look like or any of that stuff. You just need to say, what's the problem? I'll solve it for you. I don't need your guidance anymore after you tell me what your problem is, and I'll go solve it for you. See, if you don't do that, what happens is that you yourself are impacted by the answer that you're given. So once you get that guidance kind of drives you in a different direction than thinking about it solidly and coming up with a new innovative way of doing things.
Like
That's the
if I
fun part.
came to you and I said, "Hey, my car just broke down, and I need your help." You're saying like, Adam, don't tell me that you want your car to go faster than it did before. Your car is broken, like, and you need it to be back to working. Let me handle it. Let me get it
Yes.
back to working order, and then if you want it to go faster later in life, then we'll work on that. But that's another problem. It's not the don't confuse the outcome with the problem, right? That's what you're
That's
saying, right?
exactly right. Yeah,
Right.
because let somebody else figure out the solution. You just tell them the problem, let somebody else figure out the solution. That's the way I believe it should work. I mean, like you were talking about the car, right? Is it okay? So car broke down. Okay, what happened to it? Like my sister called me one day not too long ago, and she said, "Hey, I'm having this issue with my." I think at the time she was driving a Porsche Cayenne. I said, go get your ODB2 scanner. Let's plug it in and then give me the data, and then I'll turn around and tell you what's wrong with it. And it was very simple. It was just a stuck air conditioning, tube that goes down where the condensing water comes up, and so it didn't take very much. So the key is that understanding all those nuances, and just knowing what tools you want to use and where you want to use them, how you want to use them to solve the problem.
And that's
Like
the education that you had for that was very technical, engineering focused in Huntsville, right? Did
it's
you and then it sounds like you developed your, I don't know, charisma and sales and speaking ability after that, or were you always this
uh,
affable? I don't know.
I would say it was when I first got into voice over IP, I realized I was going to be the leader of the industry at some point, particularly when it came down to developing the 911 technology for voice over IP. I don't know if you remember or not. It was NBC, I guess. Matt, do you remember the guy that got fired?
Yeah,
There was
Matt Lauer. Yeah.
Matt Lauer. Yeah, Matt
Yeah.
Lauer had this huge story. This was just after I had launched my voice over IP company. And there was a huge deal about somebody that was using a voice over IP product and they couldn't call 911 because it wasn't available at the time. So that gave me a
Oh,
great idea is that, hey, let's go partner with somebody and do it. And so in Colorado, there is a company called Intrado, or was. And anyways, I partnered with those guys and we actually developed a 911 based, voice over IP based 911 call center, and that was the other technology. See, so it's always fundamentals. Is that you hear something, people think is that's too big of a problem, it's not doable, but it is doable. I mean, it's just a matter of you being very persistent, very consistent, and thinking through all the details. You see, you don't want to go deploy technology that's going to work every now and then. You want to deploy technology that's going to work 99.99999%. And so
right.
if you can't achieve five nines, then it's not worth even going after it because that means you have a failure ratio that's just too high and it's just not going to work. And even if it does work, what you'll do is end up with a customer base that is going to be split.
Right. It might be redundant or,
Yeah,
some other, yeah.
yeah.
You're also we have a common approach about us, and that is a collaborator. I think that if people describe me, they're always probably using the word collaborator because I do say a lot. I can work very well alone, for hours and days and weeks. That's fine. But I generally don't um, like miracles and beauty doesn't always blossom unless I'm working with another person. And so I have a lot of like call them strategic partnerships and stuff. in your world of technology, right? You mentioned a lot about partnering, like like you had this, I guess, an idea about the 911 voice over IP, and then you partnered with a company in Colorado. What does that look like from like a from like a financial perspective, right? I mean, was there a contract? Did it get
Yes, of
litigious?
course,
Did it
there is
get
always a contract. But when you approach larger companies and you're the smallest guy, right? Your ideas are actually worth a lot of money because big companies have a hard time coming up with solutions. And that's not because of the fault of the engineers or the technology people. It's just that pushing the idea up the frame is just very harsh to do. Whereas if you look at majority of the companies, I mean, even the larger, most all Fortune 500 companies, they always buy startups and our ideas from other companies, and then they develop that technology because they're more operationally and financially in tune, but they're not innovative in a lot of sense. And so when you get a good innovative solution, then everybody wants it, so that's the way it works.
Were you
And
concerned at all about that they were gonna, like, steal your idea and, like, take it for their own and say, "Thanks a lot, Anil, bye-bye"? Like, how did that,
I mean,
was there trust
I'm
already
sure it
developed?
has happened to other folks. I mean, I have no doubts about that. But at the same time, does it really matter? I mean, look, at the end of the day, if you only relied on one idea and it was stolen, then you're probably at a loss anyway. So the flip side of that is that if your idea was taken by somebody and into something, at some point or the other, you're going to get some sort of a financial benefit out of that, one way or the other. So I don't worry
Yeah.
too much about it because I'll disperse my technology all the time. For example, I created a company called the Avani Corporation. My older daughter's name is Avani, which means the world. So I created all these plugin
Avani, you said
modules.
Avani is,
Avani,
means the
A
what is
V
that
A N I.
in what language?
It's in Sanskrit.
In Sanskrit, Hindu, yeah.
Yeah,
Avani, oh, that's beautiful, that's nice. Okay,
yeah. Avani is my older daughter. Teja is my younger daughter. Teja means sharp.
very nice. Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah. So anyway, so
Okay.
I created this technology platform when we were having all these brownouts and blackouts in California. If you remember or not, in 2008, 9, 10, there was a lot of that brownouts and blackouts going on. So I
Yes.
wanted to find a solution for that. So I came up with this platform. It was including all replacing your plugs, switches, and so forth and so on. But you could give the utility company. Remember, California is deregulated market. So we could give control to those guys and say, hey, look, you can turn off everything, including the water heater, whatever, but not the oxygen machine, not the refrigerator, not the freezer, because I can identify those based on the IDs of the plugs that they're plugged into. So that was a great technology. But again, it was way too early to the market because it was capacitive sensitive, dimmers, and those kind of things. And then I
Mm,
decided I'm going to put it on the shelf. I'm going to wait for a fine day one day. And now the market seems like it's back up and running again. And so I'll start putting that project together. And but this
right.
time I learned the lesson is that don't be the first one to the market because it doesn't pay off.
Yeah, and then, that also, did you get involved in what was happening in Texas a couple years ago? Like, when they, I can't remember, I think Texas is also a deregulated,
Yes, it
state,
is.
and they had those, not brownouts, but the entire, like, half the state lost their power from some
Blackout.
sort of freeze or something like that. It was like a very weird frozen state, but that's interesting. So a deregulated state means that you can have more control as a like a resident? I haven't
No, not necessarily as much as it means that it's easier to work with because you can give these operators control over your house. Whereas if
ah,
you look at Alabama, for example, let's just talk about Alabama. So in Alabama, you have like particularly in Huntsville, Alabama, it's a publicly owned. No, it's what do you call it? Citizen-owned corporation, I think, or something to that extent. Anyway,
okay.
to go work with those guys would be very hard to do. Whereas
Mm,
deregulated market, you're working with the privateers, very easy to get done things with.
Yeah, that's
So
interesting.
yeah,
You
it is very interesting. Georgia is also deregulated, by the way. So Georgia is a good market, to try out things in. So you got to find the right places, and then once you mature the technology and the technology comes about, and then there's market space, then the markets themselves will change them. So
Mhm.
you don't have to worry too much about it. But do you want to spend all that time waiting for the market to mature is the question. That's why I decided to shelf the product, and now I'm going to revive it again.
That's cool.
So yeah.
Hey, well, you've been around the world, and you also live in a few different places. A topic that I'm curious about because you have a mind that you probably have an opinion about this, but um, we got Silicon Valley, over in California. We've got I'm in North Carolina, so we got the Research Triangle out in Raleigh. Um, a lot of innovation, a lot of technology, and then Austin um, kind of has blown up into we got
Yes.
people moving there, like Elon Musk moves there, and like a lot of other people are moving to Austin. We've got huge
Bezos, I think, is moving
education.
there too.
What's that?
Bezos, I think, is moving there too.
I think so too, right? And so there are I find that interesting because it's never overnight, right? There is a lot of innovation and technology going on in Austin, and um, where do you think the next one's going to be? Like, is there anything
Oh, I can
that's
already tell you what the next one is. You just didn't mention it.
where's
It's
that?
Huntsville, Alabama.
Aha, okay.
Because think
Yeah,
about
I
it.
believe that.
There is pretty much every big corporation has got operations out there, and there the NASA, there's the Army base, there's the FBI, headquarters there, or certain parts of the FBI headquarters. I believe the Space Command, and you've got Blue Origin, SpaceX, Boeing, all the big Boeing Atlas. The Delta rockets are built in Decatur, Alabama. It's one of the largest buildings I've ever seen myself. So there's a tremendous amount of technology in Huntsville, Alabama. It has the highest amount of PhDs per capita, and also the highest per capita of engineers. And and I forgot, by the way, it is also the second largest biotechnology place, next only to San Diego, because they
Is
have a place called Hudson Alpha, which is a engineering. It's a facility where companies can walk in. It kind of sounds like an incubator space, but it's a bit more integrated than that.
love that, love that. I got to get down there.
Yeah, you
Just
need to go
because
see it.
the
Yeah, if
yeah.
nothing else, the Space Museum is awesome to go see it because they got the SR-71, they got the space shuttle,
What is
one
that?
of the
What's
original
the
ones that was built
SR-71?
actually.
What's the SR-71? What is that?
The Blackbird, which is the one of the fastest aircraft ever built.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, it used to be used during the Soviet Cold War era for photographing around other people. I think there was one that was shot down over Russia, if I remember correctly. And,
Oh right. Yeah.
yeah,
Is it
and so
stealth? Is it like stealth technology or
no, it wasn't stealth back
no?
then.
Okay. All right.
It's got big fins everywhere. I mean, it was to a certain extent, and it was probably could have deflected a lot of radar, but I mean, you'd find it anyway. And see, the whole thing about stealth is that we think that we can find it, but as proven by these other third world countries now, you can even use cell phone towers to figure out where the target is going. So
Oh,
there
wow.
is a way to figure that out. I mean, and stealth technology will get better and better and better. It's not just about deflecting the radar, right? It's also absorbing the radar, so you can use a lot of different materials to be able to absorb that. So I'm sure it will come along. It
Mm,
has come
yeah.
along a long ways, but it's still got a ways to go because you can still see the target.
Do you have any I like watching like the West Wing. I like Aaron Sorkin, all of his shows and writing and stuff like that. Do you have any with your vast experience in technology and like the world and how it works? I like asking people their opinions about like shows, TV shows or movies that are that you have found to be eerily accurate? That
I think
very
everything we've seen in sci-fi so far has been pretty damn accurate. I mean, think about it. I'm on a flip phone with you. This was during the Star Trek days, way back in the day.
aha,
So,
right.
yeah. So think about it. All the things is that we think it's not going to happen, but then when it finally, I don't understand how that is, who these imaginative people are that create these things. Because every time I see something, and then all of a sudden I see it in real life, I was like, how did that happen? Are we imitating something, or we not exploring enough to go to the next level? Or those guys were that damn good that we only could do is replicate it.
It is my wife. I always remind her of this, and uh, we met about 20 years ago, and it was shortly. I was working in the Washington D.C. area, and um, during the time we my hotel, we had the crew that was working on the film Minority Report,
Ah,
and I was just excited. I got to know some of the crew and stuff. I was excited for that to come out, and then it comes out in whatever it was, 2002 or three or something
two,
like that.
two, I think. Yeah.
Two, I think, yeah. And then there was a scene that blew my mind on there, and I said, I wonder if that's ever going to happen. Now, there's a lot of scenes, but so Tom Cruise is being tracked, and like he is a
Yes.
you know, he does something wherever he is, but he goes onto a bus and he's trying to be quiet and not be noticed. And there's a guy with a what looks to be like a newspaper that's folded, but it's digital, right?
Yes.
And it's as he walks on the bus, his face comes up on the digital newspaper that the guy's like looking, and then all of a sudden, because there was some alert saying, "Hey, look out for this guy." And this is in 2002, and I'm like, I wonder if that's ever going to happen. And then Samsung comes out with their folding phone like 5 to 6 years ago, very early in that, and I said to my wife, I said, "It's happening. It's
Yeah.
happening." The folding technology, and
Yeah.
we have come so far in the last 20 years. It's amazing, but yeah, it's like they and that I think that was even written back in the 50s. I think it's Philip K. Dick, right? That wrote that. And then not Kurt Vonnegut, but uh, what's his name? From Fahrenheit, um, 49091. My friend will get mad at me, but the science fiction writer, Fahrenheit 411. What's the
No.
book about burning books? Anyways, but there's people that have these like Isaac Asimov. I saw him in an interview in 1980 or 81 with David Letterman, and we can watch all those old interviews now. And Isaac Asimov, short story writer, sci-fi. In 1981, he was talking about AI. I mean,
Yeah.
he was talking about uh, like he was describing a tablet, and like walking around with like a he wasn't using cell phone, but he was like a tablet electronic where you'll be able to go on to, again, he wasn't saying the internet, but he was describing the internet back in 1981. I was like, wow, these minds, and talk about and when they publish it, find that fascinating. You got any favorite movies that you like about sci-fi?
You know what? I think one of the movies that's been very interesting, only because lately there's been a lot of articles being published with in regards to, can you create gravity by rotating the spacecraft? Well, if you remember, there was a movie not too long ago, Elysium, I think is what it was called.
Yes.
There was a spinning
Yeah.
spacecraft, remember, that created the artificial gravity.
I
And
don't think I think that's got Matt Damon or somebody in
it's
it.
Matt Damon and what's her name? Forgot her name. But anyway, yeah, it is Matt Damon in there.
I'm gonna have to
But
watch that. So can you actually? spinning the spacecraft to create gravity?
Yes. Now NASA is starting to explore that technology. Think about it. When was that movie actually written? And now here we are. Everybody's starting to explore that idea and the concept. What does that
Wow.
say? Yeah. So who are the real innovators here?
That's a
Or
good
is it
question.
really innovation or is it execution? An idea is a dime a dozen, but the execution is always the key, right?
That's
So
huge.
which one is it? So I always struggle kind of with that idea.
Yeah, right. And, yeah, taking an idea into action.
Yes,
Um, that's a good way to end it here. I gotta, bring my son to his work. He's 15 years old. He's already working. So proud of him.
that's good,
Um,
man. I started
yep.
working when I was 9, I think.
Yeah. No,
So
uh, it's the way of the world,
hey,
it's,
it
so
is
many
the
different
way of
things.
the world, man.
That's
And,
right,
and
man.
it's also interesting because if you teach them early, then it's a lot easier. Like uh, my older daughter, she just wrapped up her MBA, right? But she already has her own company and everything, and she's going to look for a job. That's not the issue. The point being is that we taught them so early in their career that hey, eventually at some point you're going to have to own something that's of your own, whether it's a business practice, whether it's medical practice, whatever it is. And my younger daughter, she's in the dental school now, and so I told her, I said, as soon as you're done, I said, open up your own facility, don't go work for anybody.
I'll
So
tell you, if
that's a
she's going into dental school, that's a nice, way to be because I've been spending more on my dentist, over the past couple years than I have.
I think
It's a
she loves
forever
it
business.
because she
Yeah, it's a
wants
good
to work
business to
only
be in.
Monday through Thursday, and Friday, Saturday, Sunday she wants to be off. She's a home person, man. She loves being at home, watching TV, doing her own cooking, and doing her own things. And
That's
so
also good because I can never get an appointment on a Friday with a dentist because they're always off.
they're always off. That's exactly
Yeah,
it.
that's good.
All right,
Nice,
my
man.
friend. Let's do this
Alright.
another time again, and we'll pick some topics next time. Maybe I know we keep saying let's not pick topics, but I think at some point we'll have to pick topics.
I've been taking notes and, we got some, great topics that we can chat about. We can go deeper into each one. So,
Yeah,
well, thanks,
absolutely.
Anil, man.
Thank you,
I'll,
buddy.
uh, I'll be
I look
talking with
forward
you
to
very soon.
having a conversation with your brother too.
Yeah, man. We'll have you on the show and we'll get to know each other. And, whenever you get your podcast started, we can, collaborate. I can help you out and,
January
uh
26th.
awesome, man. You set a date. Cool. Good.
Yeah.
So I'll promote it on our show too.
All
We'll
right.
make it
Sounds
happen.
excellent, man.
All right,
Send me
brother.
a link to this, by the way.
I will. I will.
Okay. Thank you. Have a
See you,
great
Neil.
day and
You
look
too.
forward to
Thank
seeing you
you.
and have a good weekend.
You too. Thanks.
Okay.
Talk to you
Bye.
soon.